It is February 2013. I almost said 2012. I'm talking about diseases, pandemics, patterns of diseases, and all that fun stuff. I'm a nurse somewhere in Ontario, and also see a lot of people with a lot of different things. I do IVs, wounds, whatever is usually post-hospital I do. However, I'm going to talk a little bit about diseases, because not saying there's going to be a zombie pandemic tomorrow, but I just like to talk a little bit about diseases, patterns, bring a little bit of understanding to that, and people can stick in their own theory with some things, I guess, as they will. What brought this to mind was it's been actually 11 years since the SARS outbreak. I was just looking here on YouTube about in the UK in the last less than a month there's been cases of quote-unquote SARS-like virus. There also was last summer, I heard on the radio in August, a gentleman in the Saudi Arabia, I believe, at least then they said Arabian Peninsula anyway, died, and I think there was like less than 10 people. I don't know the stats, but anyways, that's about that. And then they're saying with this is similar to the one 10 years ago. They said that was in, I just listed the stats on this. This is from News Science. Anyways, News Science. And the second case identified. So if you want to see this video, they talk about that 10 years ago with SARS, 30 countries were affected, more than 800 people either died or were sick. It hit Toronto. I live in southern Ontario, somewhere, and I dealt with this. I have been in the healthcare system in one form or another for 10 years or so, and I also teach first aid. I had friends that worked with Toronto emergency medical services, also people who were nurses and other things in Toronto, and basically with this, how people, once they were exposed, had to be kept in isolation. Good excuse, yes, good excuse for some sort of lockdown, but that's what happened. I know one person said they knew somebody that was a security guard somewhere in Toronto and had to stay at the hospital literally for a month. The family would drop off the laundry to this person and they had to stay there because of SARS. People who had it, either nurses or medical services people who were exposed, had to stay home or be under almost like lockdown. So it is a good excuse for lockdown, basically. Yes, there is concern that things can spread. People, it was a legitimate thing that people had. It did affect your lungs. There were a few fatalities from it. A lot of misunderstanding. But Toronto, it did happen fast there. And especially Toronto being quite an international city, and with the airport, when it spread from Hong Kong and Asia to other areas, Toronto was one of the hot spots. So with things such as this, they're saying this is a corona-type virus. People are saying, oh, this stuff originated with bats. Well, any disease that has ever existed has pretty much is in existence at the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, and the Canadian Disease Control in Winnipeg. So literally the plague still does exist. In little vials, so like the movie Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman, there is some truth in those things that they still do exist. We're not saying things are going to be like 12 Monkeys or something like that. Here's my geekiness coming out with these movies. But anyways, that was the movie with Brad Pitt that came out about less than 10 years ago. My point is, they talk about these pandemics and things. So things come and go in waves. Diseases come in waves. SARS is back. I heard that, quote-unquote, in Ohio last year, the plague, like a version or something to a cousin of the plague, was found. Diseases come and go. It's like people getting sick or different strains of viruses. What happens is they go almost underground. I'm going to give facts, and then people can insert their own angle on things. Since I started teaching first aid about 10 years ago, my thinking outside the box has changed a little bit, and my opinions on some things have changed a little bit, but I'm going to try to stick to the facts as much as possible here. For example, the bird flu. There was a bunch of concern about that. And then swine flu. And actually, wasn't aware until somebody pointed out, if you look up 1970s swine flu, look at ads, almost exact same as now, where they're talking about different diseases. Oh, and it was just all the panic of now is in the 70s. Everything old is new again. Everything just comes around in different patterns with different generations and hype. So they hope other people forget. That's my opinion on some things. But anyways, or they assume people forget. But with SARS, they're thinking they found it in Birmingham in England, and they're keeping an eye on it there. For example, people will notice in wildlife that say, oh, the rabbit population is big this year, or the deer population. Nature has a way of adjusting things. So, for example, if the rabbit population is high, etc., we go back to biology, basic biology, that the wolf population will counterbalance. So nature has a way of doing these things. And diseases, well, all part of that. But things with the invention of different medications and different things change and mutate. So, for example, if people should be taking a certain medication, a antibiotic for, say, 7 days, and you take it for only 4 and you start feeling better, whatever you're taking it against is mutated. So basically, there's a bunch of stuff running around out there that's mutated. One example is tuberculosis, that when I started teaching more than 10 years ago, first aid, I was like, hey, it's gone. Not anymore. Fortunately, it has returned. And stronger. So there's a lot of diseases out there. And again, literally, I'm pressing this point. Every disease that has pretty much existed, Ebola, whatever, is under lockdown in these Center for Disease Control and in Canada as well. So we're not saying anybody's going to break in and release things in the air like in some of these movies, but just to be aware, and things mutate. So this I will put some things over to Patriot Nurse. And if you watch Patriot Nurse, she's got the good practical things for things. I also have another video. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to post this on both my channels. But anyways, she also has a video on pandemics and what to do and that kind of thing. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I made another video about 3-4 months ago about what to do or just how to protect yourself with certain things, masks and that kind of thing. So I'm not going to repeat that. However, I just want folks to think about, I don't think anybody's going to recognize where I am here, but anyways, you can protect yourself against a few things. There's biohazard, and then I showed gloves, the big thing being masks. I probably changed up these cupboards. Biohazard gowns, being aware of cytotoxic masks, like you see on the package here. If you can see, wearing like the N95 masks, but you need to be fitted for those, and I talked about that in another video. So these are some things you can be aware of, but things travel through either droplet, air, blood, whatever, or if you get bitten by zombies, I guess. And there's the hype about all these drugs, and the people who, it was interesting what happened in different states last year, Florida, Maryland, was it California? Anyways, where these quote-unquote zombie-like things happened, where people got bit. Maybe Pennsylvania. Anyways, bath salts. So, there's different stuff out there. It's interesting what's kind of on the rise. And they do talk about, in the CDC, has talked about using different diseases as a result for being able to have martial law and lockdowns and things like that. So, I don't know. I might put some links to some other videos, but my point is I'm just trying to explain that, diseases come, diseases go, diseases will always be here. Some people think some things are manufactured. Also, too, if people get, quote-unquote, get the flu shot, you can't get sick from that, but many different people have different opinions on things. I'm going to use an example, though. My cousin, Her son has never gotten immunized at all for anything. Very healthy, and he's healthier than some of his friends who go to public school. He goes to private school, so he can get away from that. And no, she doesn't do that due to religious reasons. Okay, so anyways, but just personal belief. So anyways, what I'm saying is, be aware. Diseases come, diseases go, but always check stuff out. And I'm rambling on here, but the pattern of diseases, things come back. So anything that's pretty much ever existed can come back, and they usually come back every few years. And the flu that outbroke in World War I was actually a bird flu. They, not to sound gross, but dug up a lady and found out that, yeah, they did say that it was actually a bird flu. I'm much more skeptical within the last 5 years of some things than I was a few years ago. So I'm giving facts that I know, but again, like everything, check everything out and question. Okay? So anyways, you don't have to be Mulder and question everything. The truth is out there, but with your with diseases, things with FEMA, things with patterns of different diseases, and FEMA and Homeland Security have now heard, actually, sorry, are melded. Some people have, for Homeland Security, and got some cards that actually were, I don't know, some indication that have merged with a section of FEMA. So anyways, I'm just saying, if there's any disease things, it's a perfect storm for other things. I'm going to be general as I smile and I say this. So anyways, do your homework. You have your own views. And take care. All right.